If you're seeing this video, you've seen the report already. The bombshell report from Pablo Torre about Kawhi and the Clippers. I think a lot of people, though, aren't focused on the right things with this scandal. I'm not going to rehash any of the insanely impressive reporting, rather just jump straight into the fallout so far and what to expect when the league comes to a conclusion on their investigation. The main thing a lot of people keep harping on, including Pablo, is the fact that Kawhi didn't do any endorsing on behalf of Aspiration. But why is that the main focus? Even if Kawhi did film a bunch of promotional material for this now folded fraudulent Green Bank company that's co-founder was convicted by the DOJ of defrauding its investors and lenders of $240 million, what obviously is a concern is what Kawhi's market value is for an endorsement deal, and that certainly not being $7 million annually. One of the things Pablo reported that should be getting all the headlines is the fact that Kawhi's deal for the $20 million, according to that source who was a former employee in the finance department that went on tape with voice modulation, was 4 times more money combined than the rest of their celebrity endorsement roster.
More than 4 times the rest of the celebrity roster combined. And the kicker, you might argue, is that he didn't do anything.
A roster including Drake, Leonardo DiCaprio, and Ronald Downey Jr., among others. It's getting talked about, but that is the bigger deal rather than him having to do nothing. Because if this figure was hypothetically $700K a year, him doing nothing wouldn't be that big of a deal and as much of a headline. The NBA's collective bargaining agreement states when it comes to players doing sponsorships with companies that have larger sponsorship deals with the teams itself, that they can do them, even have the team give an introduction to the player and corporate sponsor, which Ballmer made clear in his ESPN sit-down interview. But the deal has to be of, quote, market value, which makes total sense. That rule is perfect how it is. For example, LeBron has an endorsement deal with Crypto.com, the naming rights partner of the Lakers arena, of course. And that deal has to be worth what is deemed as fair, reasonable value of what a sponsor would typically pay LeBron for whatever deliverables and obligations they're asking of him. These deals have been a thing for decades in the NBA. A lot of people have pointed out Spurs players' partnerships with a Texas grocery chain, H-E-B, most famously with Tim Duncan, while the Spurs also have a deal with the chain, and yeah, as long as it's not an overly lucrative, suspicious number, there's no problem. And that's really that when it comes to what is wrong about this. I don't even think it matters if Kawhi had done a bunch of promotional material had he signed the autographs. The contract that Torre obtained said he would have to sign 50 autographs if ever asked, which David Sampson, who was on the pod with Torre, called a joke of a number for anyone with familiarity of such deals, because he said it's typically in the thousands. But even if he did do that, that's still to me cap circumvention, that he would get paid $7 million annually for these things when Drake's deal is probably in the few hundreds of thousands. Because I mean, what we're hearing off his Kawhi's deal is 4 times more than anybody else's. So Drake's deal has to be what, like 200, 300K a year. And Drake has at least what, 10 times a bigger reach than Kawhi Leonard? The next page to turn to is then Steve Ballmer. His sit-down interview like it was 1990 and cable television was the only medium of media was pretty hilarious. Look, I get why he didn't do the interview with Pablo himself. I'm sure his lawyers and PR team firmly opposed that, and that's totally fair. But you fly across the country to Bristol, Connecticut, ESPN's main headquarters, to do this, and really say what? That you don't break the rules in a whole bunch of PR nonsense?
Up front, I want to say one thing very clearly. We, the Clippers, have abided by the salary cap circumvention rules because that's the right thing to do.
You know, Steve, what's really interesting about that is back in 2015, which you may have already heard this discussed, the NBA fined Ballmer $250,000 for offering DeAndre Jordan a $200,000 annual Lexus endorsement deal, the car company, if he would re-sign with the Clippers, which he ultimately did. And the only reason they were caught is because he actually had said this down in writing. This was the whole free agent Twitter fiasco where Blake Griffin posted a picture of him and the Clippers teammates who were at DJ's home barricading his front door with some small ass dining room chair. DeAndre had verbally committed to the Mavs. He said on a podcast he told Dirk, Mark Cuban, and Chandler Parsons he was coming, returning to his home state of Texas. And then long story short, a bunch of Clipper teammates roll up to his house, including owner Steve Ballmer, and yeah, he signs back with LA. So we're supposed to believe Steve is this big rule follower when we already know you got caught doing this before. This isn't an allegation or report. No, you got caught. And considering this whole investigation from Torre is seen by some as not enough evidence, puts into perspective how hard it is to get caught with these things. Like, had this company not gone bankrupt, he would have gotten away with this. Had Kawhi's camp, Kawhi, who knows exactly who in his camp, Uncle Dennis we probably know, had they not demanded the final $7 million they were owed to get their LLC's name off the list of creditors that were still owed money to, then we would not know. That's what's crazy, is all they had to do was say, look, we can't pay you the final outstanding $7 million. We've already given you $21 million under the table on top of all your max deals. Just drop this amount and we'll try to work something else out. I don't know. But all they had to do was not demand the final $7 million, and Kawhi's KL2 Aspire LLC, which, what a name, like literally just name it any other thing, would not be listed as a creditor. Then we get to the most fascinating part of this whole thing, in my opinion, Uncle Dennis Robertson. This is Kawhi's uncle and the person who raised Kawhi growing up. This is seemingly, on the outside looking at things, we obviously don't know the relationship dynamic, the closest person to Kawhi. And I'm sure you've heard about the 2019 investigation into Leonard signing with LA in the first place, how the league was probably tipped by the Raptors and Lakers ownership groups, the two other teams Kawhi was pondering signing with, along with the Clippers, that his camp, Uncle Dennis, were making unreasonable requests to these teams during his free agency. Sam Amick of The Athletic reported back in 2019 that Uncle Dennis asked for partial ownership share, private plane access, a house, and hear this, guys, a guaranteed amount of endorsement money from Lakers owner Jeannie Buss. And a Raptors source told TSN, the most popular sports media outlet in Canada, that Uncle Dennis made, quote, unreasonable requests to the team. We can imagine along these similar lines of what he asked from Buss and the Lakers. This prompted the investigation I just alluded to into Kawhi signing with the Clips, where while they found no evidence, Silver said, we see salary cap circumvention as a cardinal sin in the NBA, and if any improper benefits resurface in the future, we will reopen the investigation. Oh, that's funny, because I think a signed and executed contract showing this company Ballmer invested $50 million of his own money into and paid Kawhi $28 million in cash, plus reportedly $20 million in stock options per the Boston Sports Journal, which came to light after Pablo's initial report, which Pablo has since confirmed, suffices as more than improper benefits. I really do dislike how this reporting from Pablo is being framed as not enough, and that it's just circumstantial evidence, which isn't enough for the NBA to come down on the Clippers. It's like, why do we need to have this in writing that Ballmer was aware of this? His personal investment money into the company talks way louder than his mouth code in an email. This just shows you how hard it is to get caught with something like salary cap circumvention, because again, all that needed to happen for us to not even know about this and Pablo never finding out is Uncle Dennis not pleading for the final $7 million after already getting paid $21 million, potentially over $40 million already under the table. You hear people all the time praise Adam Silver for his courageousness in banning Donald Sterling from the NBA for life, the Clippers' previous owner who was caught on audio tapes making a plethora of racist remarks.
I am banning Mr. Sterling for life from any association with the Clippers organization or the NBA.
That, if we're being honest, was not courageous at all. Who was opposed to what Adam did? Who, Robert Sarver maybe, the former Suns owner who was also outed back in 2022 for racist and misogynistic comments? That was a layup for Adam. This is an actual tough decision, and the reality is we know nothing is gonna really happen. They're gonna use the fact that there's no paper trail, and an interesting thing to think about is Steve Ballmer and the Clippers can sue the NBA if they do decide to hand down a lofty punishment, thanks to potentially the lack of evidence in writing. The Clippers should be docked. I personally would say 5 first-round picks, what the Timberwolves initially were for the Joe Smith scandal back in 2000 before the draft compensation punishment was reduced to 3 picks. And then not like this would even be a severe punishment, but Kawhi's contract should be voided. The Clippers should have any possible leftover hope of this Kawhi era panning out in a championship completely shut down. And that could be a massive storyline heading into the final month of the offseason. That would be insane if Kawhi Leonard was on the open market to sign in like late September.